Welcome back, dear viewers, and thank you for staying with us. And as we promised you, we shall talk in one of our two main segments in this episode about the Buddha statue, which was recently unearthed at a temple in the Red Sea region. The director of the Polish side of the mission pointed out that the 71-centimeter high statue depicts the Buddha standing and holding part of his clothing in his left hand. He added that a halo with sun rays surrounds the Buddha's head, indicating his radiant mind, in addition to a lotus flower standing beside him. He also noted that the Buddha statue was made from stone, probably quarried from the region just south of modern Istanbul, Turkey, and it must have been sculpted locally and dedicated to the temple by one or more rich merchants from India. And to shed more light on the issue, we are delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Ahmed Nour, historian and researcher. A very good morning to you, Dr. Nour, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Mohammed. Good morning.
Dr. Nour, we need to know more, please, about the newly discovered marble of the statue of Buddha.
It is the first time to discover a statue of Buddha in Egypt, and maybe especially in this place because it was a famous port, Bernice or Berniki, which belongs to Queen Berenike, mother of Ptolemy II. So this place is a famous port in Egypt from the 3rd century BC. To discover a statue of Buddha, like you mentioned, of marble, about 71 centimeter, and also important that he holding some of his clothes in his left hand, and beside lotus flower, the symbol of Upper Egypt, and also above his head the sun rays. So this is connected also between the civilization, the ancient Egyptian civilization in the Greek-Roman period and India, because the port itself was so important in the Ptolemaic and the Roman period, connected Egypt with India, and it was the route of trade in the Roman Empire that controlled the world in that time also. So from the other side, connected between this port, we call Berenice, but the name of Berniki. Also from the other side was Egypt, because all these commercial products, they brought it from India, and also to reach to the other side from the Red Sea, to go to the Mediterranean Sea from the other side, because they connected between Berniki and or Berenice and Alexandria.
Yeah.
By a famous road also during Koft place. So this is important discovery, and also not only to discover the statue, but to shed more light about this trade between the East and the Far East and the Roman Empire.
Yes, Dr. Noureddin, you personally, as a historian, as a researcher, were you surprised by the discovery? I mean, as you mentioned, it is the first time that, a Buddhist statue is discovered in Egypt. Egypt has all of the world's treasures, or most of the world's treasures, but no one knew that it also had a Buddha statue. So were you personally surprised?
It is, for me, it is normal to discover statues from other culture and other civilization, because usually, you know that, for example, Egypt or the Egyptian people, when they go to Lebanon or Byblos, they carried the statue of Amun-Ra, something to protect. Like nowadays, the Muslim who carries a Quran book, or a Christian who carries the Bible to read. So in that time, when they traveled, they carried the statue that they believed, statue of their God. So sure that the commercial people from India when they came to Egypt with their products in that period, in the Roman period, they carried a statue that they worshipped, and then maybe they left in the temple, because it was a temple in this area of Berenice in that time, from the period of Ptolemy II, and after that continued from the Roman period. But for the Egyptian religion, or the ancient Egyptian religion, and also connected after that or continued with the Greek-Roman religion. So when they carried this statue with them from India, they left maybe in the temple, and then after many centuries we discovered, and maybe you can discover more statue for Buddha or for other gods in the same area, because it was a port. So it received people from all the world. So this is the first time to discover the statue, but maybe we discover more for Buddha and for other gods from that time and from other countries.
Yeah, that was going to actually be my next question. So should we be excavating more in the area, in the Bernice or Berenique port area, in expectation of perhaps newer discoveries? Is that planned already?
The area itself, it is archaeological place, because it had remains of the temple of the Greek Roman period, from the period of Ptolemy II, and the excavation started many years before, and they discovered also some of the stela and some of the remains of this temple, and this was important port in that time. You know that it is the same role of Suez Canal nowadays, for example, because the port was in the Red Sea, receiving all the products from the east, and also to carry to the west by camels, and through the Nile to reach to Alexandria, and then to the Mediterranean Sea, and reach to Roman Empire in the outside, or to Rome.
Yes.
And at the same time carrying some other things from there to go to the east also during the Nile, and then camels through the desert and reach to this port, and then from the Red Sea to reach to India and the east and the far east. So it was so important place and so important port, and it had a big temple in that time also from the Greek-Roman period, and maybe before that from the late period or the Pharaonic period.
Yeah. So I guess, Dr. Noureddin, we need to know more about the trade route that connected the Roman Empire in Egypt with other areas in the ancient world, and not just India. So could you tell us about prospects of such discoveries?
Sure, that we have the first city that the Greek people constructed in Egypt wasn't Alexandria, it was Nocrates, to the west side of Delta in El Buhaira governorate nowadays. Nocrates, they started to construct in the 26th dynasty to the west bank of Delta, and also to the ram of Rosetta, to be connected with the Mediterranean Sea, and then with Greek world, with Athens.
Yeah.
And then it was dedicated for the Greek soldier. I speak about the 26th dynasty, from the period of Basmati. So after that, also it was near to Delta, so it is, and near to the capital of that time, that it was Sais, to the west side of Delta also, and then continued till Alexander the Great, when he entered Egypt, he constructed Alexandria to be his capital and to commemorate his name, and then it became the capital of Egypt from 332 till the entrance of Muslim and Arabian 642 AD, and it was maybe the famous city in the Greek period and also in the Roman period, and we can remember the famous period of Queen Cleopatra.
Yes.
By the end of the Greek period, and also the beginning of the Roman period was Octavius or Augustus. So it was a famous port after Naucratis, Alexandria, and then in the Roman period, Hadrian, the famous emperor, constructed another city to the south of Egypt, also in the Roman period, and connected between this city near to Sohag nowadays and this famous port of Paranese was a famous road that connected that famous port of Paranese with, during Koft reach to this city of Adrian. So it was more than one city and more than one port in that time in the Greek and in the Roman period also.
Right, Dr. Noureddin. So let's turn back to the statue itself. Could you tell us what you think, I mean, your opinion regarding the workmanship of the statue itself that was discovered, of course, in Bernice?
The statue itself, which represents Buddha made out of marble, about 71 centimeter, carrying some of his clothes in his left hand, and also near we can see the lotus flower, and the lotus was the famous symbol of Upper Egypt, like papyrus for Lower Egypt and the lotus for Upper Egypt. But when they connected or when they represented the lotus flower, they made something to connect between the ancient Egyptian art and civilization and religion with the Indian in that time, because when we speak about the 2nd century AD, we speak about the Roman period. We speak also they continued in that time in ancient Egyptian religion, but to represent the lotus flower, it is so important to connect between the Egyptian art and this famous art and religion of India in that time. The trade with India started before the Roman period, at least by, in the Greek period, because this port itself started from the period of Ptolemy II, about the 3rd century BC, so about 4 or 5 centuries before the period of this statue of Buddha. Statue of Buddha, the famous god in this area of India, like we mentioned, to be discovered in Egypt, it will not mean that he was worshipped in this place, but they carried the statue with them in the traditional, and the people who are coming in trade from India to Egypt or from Egypt to India in the Roman period, like we mentioned, like the Egyptian when they carried the statue of Amun-Ra in different places, so they discover the statue of Amun also, or Amun-Ra, in different countries around Egypt that the people carried, till they found in Athena and at Rome also, and the statue of goddess Isis. So to discover this statue, at least it will open a new study to learn and to know more about the relation between Egypt during the Roman Empire and India in that period.
Right, Dr. Noureddin. What about the inscriptions which archaeologists found in the same temple?
We have an inscription in this temple that we already found, the archaeologists found before, which represent Ptolemy II and his mother, is a famous stela that they found, with god Osiris, the famous god in ancient Egypt, god of the last judgment day, and god of the death, and the god of the other or the second life. They found a famous stela which represents the Greek king, or the Ptolemy II himself with his mother, and also with his wife, making offering in front of god Osiris. And also in the same stela they found another god and the goddess of Upper and Lower Egypt, and it mentioned in hieroglyphic first, because as a respect of hieroglyphic, they mentioned that the king himself as a pharaoh, because they represented the king as a pharaoh, and they wrote his name inside the cartouche. They mentioned in hieroglyphic that he is making offering for his god, or for his father, god Osiris, because they continued to represent the king as Sarah, as a son of God Ra, to be the ruler as son of God in his life, and they thought that he would be God in second life or afterlife. So one of the famous stela that they discovered in this temple before, the famous stela which represents the Ptolemaic king in front of God Osiris and the other god and the goddess of Upper and Lower Egypt, and beside or behind him his mother and his wife.
Right, and finally, Dr. Noureddin, how can these major archaeological discoveries that have been made in recent years and that are recurrent, really? I mean, Egypt always, comes with everything new every day. How can they help boost the key tourism industry, Dr. Noureddin?
Sure that this discovery for this area of the Red Sea will open also not a new place in the map of tourism, but we have discovery everywhere, and maybe each month we have a new discovery at Saqqara, Tun al-Jabal in Al-Minya, at Al-Asasif in Luxor. Everywhere we have, and now when we have more discovery in this area of the Red Sea, sure that we have tourism, beach tourism in Hurghada, near or Marsa Alam, near to this place. So it will increase more the number of tourists in this area, when they at least will read about this discovery near to this area that they are already comes from everywhere. And maybe one day, if they will finish the discovery of this area, of the remains of the temple of this area of Paradise, and the area around can be open to visit, so to connect between the cultural and the beach tourism. The same idea when they open the new museum at Hurghada, for example, and
Yes.
also the other one at Sharm el-Sheikh, the famous new museum.
Right, indeed. Dr. Ahmed Noureddin, historian and researcher, thank you very much for your insight. It's been really informative and rich. Thank you, sir, very much. We still have more on The Breakfast Show, dear viewers. Segment number 2 will come your way shortly. Please do not go away.